All right. Good afternoon, neighbors, friends, and family. I'd like to thank our hosts here at the Well for allowing us to come here and do this. And we appreciate you coming out here to give us an audience. This is our second campaign speech, so hopefully it'll go a little bit more smoothly than the first. I'd like to thank my folks, my family, for showing up to give us some moral support. I'd like to thank Mr. Gabe Wilson and his father also for continuing to help us with the campaign and for being my advisor of sorts. I'd like to thank Mrs. Willard for letting me borrow a really excellent book of hers by Cleon Skousen, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. I usually like to give a preview and disclaimer before I start these speeches. The last speech I had written out a formal speech, and some people seem to think that went pretty well, but I decided to scrap it this time around and just be straightforward and honest with folks and keep it real as much as possible, because after what we saw last night, me and Gabe, I just feel like we kind of have to bring some more serious issues. We have to be a little bit more, we need to be a little bit more straightforward with people. I think we're all adults, we all kind of understand the value of what's happening right now in the country, so I'm not going to pander to anybody if I can help it. So I'm going to talk about three major issues which are on our platform, and intermittently, or perhaps leading up to, I'll introduce myself, let y'all get a feel for me and what I'm about. I'll be talking about a few national items as well, since we just saw Mr. Huelskamp, our representative in Congress, last night. He had a few interesting things to say, but we're going to cover education, taxes, and rights of citizenship as the three parts of my platform. If everybody's interested in those as much as I am, then hopefully I'll have something educational for you at least, or at least thought-provoking while I'm here. So if not, any other questions or concerns that you have, we'll be happy to answer, or if we can't, we'll do the extra research. It'll let us know where we need to work on our rhetoric and our knowledge a little bit. And I'll go ahead and introduce myself properly, folks. I'm Bryant. I'm a native of Galva, Kansas, just a few miles to the east here of McPherson. I'm 24. I've been living in Kansas pretty much my whole life, although I did stray for 4 years to go join the U.S. military. I was in the Army as an infantryman. I was deployed twice, once to Iraq in 2008, once to Afghanistan in 2010 and 2011. Right there at the tail end of 2010, I should say. And I come back home, I get back safely, I'm reunited with my family and friends, and couldn't be happier about it. I have a few concerns though, which is what brings me here tonight to speak with you. I have to say, you know that things are getting pretty bad when you see someone my age, with my level of experience, just fresh from the Army, already trying to get involved in politics. So we'll do the best we can, but we do have to touch on a few uncomfortable subjects, I guess, tonight. I'm going to be running for our state Senate seat, District 35 as it now stands. I'm going to be running against Mr. Jay Emler from Lynchburg. He's a 11-year incumbent, a pretty well-established person in the Senate. He's the majority leader, and he's a respected member of the community of Lynchburg, so we don't want to pick on him too much. It's not my goal to try and tear down the man. It's just my goal to try and correct some mistakes and maybe do better where he could have or should have. So if we talk about any particular instances where we had a disagreement, it's only a professional disagreement. And no offense to Jay, but we live in a free society. We live in a democratic society, so I'm happy to run against him and hopefully relieve him of office. We We don't have quite the fundraising power that Mr. Imler does. He grossed about $90,000 in contributions last campaign. We can't quite match that, but it's my personal goal to win the election with $5,000 or less. I think that that's a practical and reasonable goal, especially if all of you can go home tonight and tell 5 of your neighbors about us. We appreciate your participation in this democratic process, and we wouldn't have it any other way. So, I think it's entirely feasible, and I think you deserve a better service at a better rate. So, with our modest contributions, I think that we can get the information out to people. If they're informed, I think they're going to see the difference between us and Mr. Imler, and I think they're going to approve of the changes we want to make. Well, I need to be straightforward with you folks about my political philosophy. I had a little episode last night when we were in the Republican town hall meeting. I announced myself as a libertarian, and amid mostly warm reception, a few chuckles, there was a little bit of jokes at our expense, I guess, maybe, but not too bad. But I'm a libertarian by affiliation, and I usually don't try to define myself as a member of any particular group. But, you know, at least joining the Libertarian Party allowed me to avoid some of the established status quo in the other 2 parties. Plus, for all financial purposes, I'm basically an independent. Our Libertarian Party of Kansas is not very wealthy or influential yet, unfortunately, but I think we can grow the party, so I'm happy to be a member, and I'm happy to have their nomination. As far as my philosophy on governance and politics, I have to cite Dr. Ron Paul from Texas as the most influential personality on my political ideology. Really, he's a mentor for all of life, I think. He's a pretty remarkable individual, and some people have their qualms with him, but I think personally that if you don't like Dr. Paul in some level or another, even if not politically, you just don't know enough about Dr. Paul. He's a man that dedicated years of his life to learning and to doing things to actually help other people to improve their lives, delivering 4,000 babies, being an OB doctor, you know, then studying economics and entering the field of politics to get involved in the process and try to mitigate some of his concerns at the time. Exactly the same reason we're here. And really, I think Dr. Paul has known all along that the tide would be against him, but he's doing the work that he's doing because he wanted people like me and Gabe to follow in his footsteps, so to speak, start our own local campaigns. I think he understands very clearly that we can't save the country from the top down. You can't dictate from the top down, as many other big government advocates would suggest. It has to be a fundamental understanding with the people. It has to be a popular change, otherwise the people won't accept it, and the first chance they get, they're just going to reverse the change or rebel, I suppose. Which kind of brings me to the conversation we had with Tim Hulskamp last night. I like Tim Hulskamp personally after meeting him, and after looking at his voting record, I think that he's doing a fairly good job as a representative of his constituents and of the people as a whole, all of the American people. You know, I've written to him before and said that he'll never be able to please the welfarists or the warmongers. That's not something that a representative should do, though. All we really should expect from our elected representatives is that they protect our rights and give us the room to conduct our lives as we can, as we decide.